So Jeff, first of all, tell me a little bit about Burns & McDonnell.
Well, thank you. Burns & McDonnell is a multidisciplinary engineering and construction company. We do an awful lot of work in the power sector, and we're very excited to get involved in the offshore wind industry.
Fantastic. So tell me, you've come from the States specifically to attend this conference. Why is it so important to you to be here?
Well, that's correct. We came here specifically to this event from the U.S. because we feel very excited by the prospects for a very large development in offshore and renewable energy in the United States, recognizing that Europe is 20 to 30 years ahead of the United States in offshore wind development. We have an awful lot to learn, and I feel that a lot of the developers that are established in the UK or in Europe that are coming into the US have a great opportunity to partner with firms like us that are familiar with work in the United States, and we're very excited to meet people as we're here.
It's amazing. So tell me, how would you characterize the supply chain for offshore wind in the States at the moment?
The supply chain for offshore wind, in its infancy. I think people are learning as these initial projects are awarded what the challenges are going to be, and hopefully as enough projects come on board through the state processes, there's a more formal supply chain established. And I think one of the key things that we're learning is the importance that is being put on the developers on local support, local union labor, local engineering, and local equipment manufacturing to the extent that exists. So it's interesting as this all plays out, how much of this can be sourced from overseas versus the emphasis put on local development. Specifically, a lot of exciting things that we're seeing are around the ports. What it's going to mean for operations and maintenance. It's really going to change the way that a lot of the coastline communities, and hopefully we'll see benefit for the positive.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Mark, tell me a little bit about Team Humber Marine Alliance.
Well, we're a not-for-profit business development organisation focused on the maritime and offshore industries. We've been on the go for about 20 years now, and probably the last 10 years we've had a really key focus on offshore wind. It's a big sector for this part of the world, and we wanted to make sure that companies in the region got the best out of those huge investments in the North Sea.
Fantastic. And what about this event? So why here, why now?
Well, this is our 7th Offshore Wind Connections conference and exhibition. It's got bigger and bigger each time, and here we are in Hull, sold out, with speakers and delegates not just from this region, but from around the world.
So who are some of the speakers that we can look forward to?
Well, we've got the main developers here, so Energy and Ørsted. We've got the turbine manufacturers like Mitsubishi, Vestas Offshore Wind and Siemens Gamesa. So really the key players in the industry.
Fantastic, that's great. And thinking ahead to next year's conference, what's the one main change you would like to see happen by then?
I think we might have to get a bigger venue, or just something, because there's quite a few disappointed people. You know, it's a nice problem to have, but it shows the success of what we're trying to achieve, but also the growth of the industry.
Absolutely, thank you. So Al, tell me a little bit about Givi Wind Power.
Well, Givi Wind Power have been in the Hull area from about 3 years ago we moved here. We spotted that there was a need for a local presence in Humber, which we saw as an obvious place to be, given that Siemens were coming. And they came after us, I might just add that, okay? And we recognised that it was the right place to be to grow our business. And since being here, we've spread throughout Europe, and the entire continental landmass, and recently we're in the United States. And you just heard Stefan there talking about opening our training facility in Rhode Island. So we've really expanded hugely, and a lot of it is thanks to the support we get here in Humber.
Fantastic. And we were just discussing a minute ago an innovative product that you guys have just brought to the market. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, well, so we do blade maintenance, and we noticed that one of the risks that the owners of turbines have is understanding what their costs are, understanding how they can get their blades maintained and repaired throughout the season. And there are a couple of innovations that we brought into the market, along with an overall service that we provide. The first one would be our Ventura Habitat, and what we do with that is it provides a shelter around the technicians on the blade so they can carry out repairs in all weathers. We also handle all of the data that we get through an innovation on our iPad. We've called it Iris, Intuitive Repair and Inspection System, and the technicians themselves gather the data and live information is fed back to our project managers. So we handle all of this data, we can handle the weather, and we can take on these risks that come with those elements straight to we handle that risk rather, and we can offer the savings to the client. And we've done that through a program called Blade 24/7, where you as the owner hand your entire wind park over to us. We'll carry out the inspections and we'll take all of the risks and we'll maintain your blades for a fixed period of time at a fixed price for you. So you know your costs, we know the farm, and we get to develop an understanding of what's required throughout the years.
Fantastic, thank you. So Dawn, tell me a little bit about Greenport Hull.
Greenport Hull was a concept that came about, it must be 9-10 years ago now, and it was built on the back of trying to get Siemens Gamesa, as they are now known, into the Hull area and actually building on Alexandra Dock. It was primarily in relation to assembling of the wind turbines, but since that time they've also of course built a blade factory on the site. Greenport has been about actually ensuring that the economy, this local economy, made the most of that opportunity. So it was brought about to enable us to help individuals and businesses get into the supply chain, get jobs, and actually work within the Greenport family as such.
Very good. So how would you describe the status of the local supply chain within this region?
But very much at the moment, there is a lot going on. There's more than what actually people think. However, we are constantly trying to ensure that our small, medium-sized businesses understand the opportunities that are out there, and more importantly, look at how they can actually be part of it. So one of the things that Greenport's done, and we are continuing to do as we go forward, is actually educate businesses of what that supply chain looks like, what the benefits are to them with regard to being part of it, and then also helping them to be ready for it. So that could be just through information gathering, that could be through networking, it could be through grants that we can offer as well to actually be part of it. We was always conscious right at the very beginning that we didn't want a load of suppliers coming in from out of the area. What we had to do was actually very much persuade not just Siemens, but other businesses within the sector, and that's offshore wind and wider renewable sector, to actually see what the local businesses are capable of doing for them and trying to get that message across.
That's fantastic. So thinking ahead to OWC 2020, this time next year, what's the one change you would really like to see happen by then?
The more small businesses that we can get into that supply chain, the better. And that doesn't matter if it's accommodation, it's a taxi firm, PPE equipment, or engineering. It's the fact of the supply chain is massive, so it's making the most of every single bit of it.
Thank you, Dawn. So Ray, tell me about why you're here at this event today.
Well, Hull is obviously an extremely important place for us. We have the big investment in Hull with our blade factory and port facility, so it's kind of the centre of the offshore wind world for us in the UK. Timing is, of course, very important as well. We have a tremendous wave of interest in climate change and the work that offshore wind is doing. Hitting our climate change targets is obviously a big challenge, but offshore wind is a massive part of that. And I think over the next few days we're going to see that even more, because we're going to see reports coming out from Committee on Climate Change really recommending that we increase the aspiration on offshore wind. So it's a hugely exciting time.
Great. And what in particular are you looking forward to learning or talking about over the next couple of days?
Well, for us, this is kind of almost like a home game. This is our home ground. So for us, it's great to see the industry come to us for a change. And I'll say, 100, 200 people maybe that we know and already engage with the industry in one place at one time. So it's that great level of conversation and that excitement and buzz about the industry, here at the heart of it.
Which we can hear right behind us. That's great, thank you. So looking ahead to next year's conference, what's the one key change you'd like to see happen by then?
I think the conversation will have moved on. I think we've had a really important year with the sector deal and great ambition for offshore wind. I think the climate change momentum that we see now will really take hold. So this time next year we may be looking at a much bigger programme of offshore wind and even more aspirational targets. And that obviously creates growth for us, but across the supply chain for the UK, and creates jobs in the UK, which is what everybody's looking for.
Thanks, Ray. So Bert, tell me a little bit about ACTA Marine.
Well, ACTA are workboat operators. We both have small workboats, CTVs, and as well as the bigger OSVs. We just had a new vessel delivered, which is on her way to Den Helder our base in the Netherlands. We have one vessel currently working from the Humber region, and I expect actually today a second vessel to start working out of Grimsby. So all in all, we work worldwide, and we have about 40 vessels. And obviously, offshore wind is one of the main sectors that we're active in.
Absolutely. So you've come over from Rotterdam for this conference. Why is this a particularly important conference for you to be at?
Well, it's very good for me to be in the Humber region because we have many business acquaintances here. Obviously, we have some projects going on here. So on the side of the event, I get a chance to visit our vessels and to visit our clients and all the people we're working with. We have some local people also working for us. So that's a very good opportunity to be here and to go and see and speak with them all.
How about the speakers? Have you heard some good speakers this morning?
Yeah, I had heard some quite interesting things on not only the Humber region developments, but the worldwide developments for the offshore wind sector. And well, I think everyone is aware, at least at this event, but probably also outside that, everyone is aware that there's going to be an enormous growth over the next decades in offshore wind, and I think at some point it will be the new standard, and it will be replacing lots of jobs and lots of activities from oil and gas. So yeah, potentially a main challenge is going to be to keep the workforce, or to get the workforce up to standards, because I think not only in the Humber region but around the North Sea area for the next 10 or 15 years there's going to be hundreds of thousands of skilled people will be needed to operate and maintain all these technology.
And where would you see those skills coming from?
Well, potentially for the short term, obviously from other sectors, maybe oil and gas. If the downturn in oil and gas continues, obviously there's people coming from that side. For the longer term, as we're planning here, I've seen this morning that we're planning for like 25, 30 years ahead, and with an enormous growth foreseen. So I think lots and lots of new talent should also be educated and trained in the right way.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome.
So tell me about the switch list.
So the switch list is Renewable UK's list. It's a diverse list of women in the industry, and it basically facilitates networking, and if there are certain industries that would like a woman to come along and do a speaking session from a different company, then you can find the information on this list. It's over 300 women on there now, and it's growing, so it's a fantastic thing. You should sign up.
I certainly will. and so looking ahead to the next year, what are some of the priorities that RUK and you will be working on?
Well, again, we're pushing through the sector deal, so that's one of the main things, and building on our switch list, and just promoting our events to the industry, and getting people to come along and network, and basically working for our members and making sure that they're getting everything out of the membership that they can.
And I'm guessing that one of the main events you're working on at the moment is Global Offshore Wind?
It is indeed. We have this big event coming up at the end of June. Exhibition space is nearly sold out. We do have some opportunities left, but it's our flagship event, and it's the largest offshore wind event in the UK. So yeah, definitely worth coming.
In my experience, it's getting bigger and better every year, that one.
Exactly. And we're hoping this year to have over 3,000 delegates attend from over 40 different countries. So it's definitely worth coming along.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.